I never expected the night that unraveled everything to begin with such a simple sound, the soft tick of the hallway clock. It was strangely loud, almost accusing, as if it knew what was about to collapse long before I did. For most of my life, I believed our home would always carry the quiet warmth of stability. My father, Adrian Cole, now 40, had been the man I admired without question. My mother, Mara, 40, was the soul of our family, steady, gentle, and endlessly patient. And my younger sister, Sienna, recently 16, was the bright spark who kept us laughing even on the hardest days. But that evening in our small Portland apartment, something felt different. Something felt broken before anyone said a word. The heater hummed as if trying to soothe the tension in the air. And the familiar smell of Mara's cooking still lingered in the living room, though tonight it failed to bring comfort. Sienna lay sprawled across the couch, scrolling through her phone like any carefree teenager, unaware of how close we all were to a storm we couldn't escape from. I had just come home from work, expecting the usual warmth, the usual routine, the faint music from the kitchen, Sienna's chatter, my parents' soft conversation. Instead, a hollow stillness met me. When Adrian called my name from the living room, his voice didn't sound like his. There was a tremor in it, thin, strained, fragile. I paused, sensing something had shifted. Mara sat on the sofa with her hands tightly clasped together, knuckles pale, as if holding herself together was the only thing preventing her from falling apart. And in that moment, even before the truth surfaced, I felt my heartbeat quicken with dread. My father wasn't cruel, at least not in the way people usually imagine cruelty. He was a man raised on discipline, structure, and the belief that control was the backbone of love. He loved us, yes, but his love came with fine print conditions, expectations, invisible lines we were never meant to cross. We accepted it for years. We told ourselves that this was just who he was, that families were supposed to bend around each other's flaws. But that kind of love, I later realized, is not love at all. It's a cage, quiet, polished, and deceptively safe. Standing there, I saw something in Adrian's eyes that frightened me. Gone was the reassuring presence of my childhood. What replaced it was cold, distant, almost desperate. He looked at me as though the words he was about to speak would either save him or destroy us all. He inhaled deeply, choosing each word with care. "I need you to do something for me," he said quietly. "Something your mother can't manage." The room tilted slightly, or maybe it was just my breath catching in my chest. Sienna didn't look up from her phone, but Mara's eyes lowered, tears gathering slowly, silently. I felt each second press down on me like a weight. I waited for him to continue, but the pause stretched so long that I finally whispered, "What is it?" The answer, when it came, cut through the air like a blade. It wasn't a request. It was an ultimatum. A choice between loyalty and truth. Between the version of him I had loved and the reality I had refused to see. I refused. I didn't even hesitate. And the instant I did, the cracks that had quietly lived beneath our surface split wide open. That night became the beginning of our unraveling. In the days that followed, the house felt heavier, suffocating in ways I couldn't fully understand. Adrian's voice, once confident, now carried a hard edge, as though every sentence had to fight its way out of him. Mara moved as if bound by invisible chains, her smiles rare, her laughter forced. Dinner became tense silence, broken only by the clinking of utensils against plates. Sienna, confused and frightened, asked if everything was okay, but none of us could bear to answer. How does a family explain a fracture they don't yet understand? Then small, unsettling things began to happen. Adrian came home later and later, each time with faint traces of perfume on his jacket, one that didn't belong to Mara. His phone calls became more frequent, more secretive. Conversations stopped abruptly whenever I entered the room. I tried to ignore it, tried to protect whatever remained of the man I had once believed in. But denial is a thin, fragile shield, and reality has a way of piercing through it when you least expect it. One evening I overheard Mara whispering, her voice cracking under the pressure of some invisible weight. "I can't carry this secret anymore," she murmured. Adrian's reply came low, almost pleading. "If you speak, you'll destroy us." That sentence lodged itself in my chest, sharp and haunting. What secret could possibly justify this kind of fear? I didn't know then, but I would soon. Days later, a storm rolled across Portland, rain slashing against the windows like a warning. The house seemed to hold its breath. Sienna clung to Mara, eyes wide with a fear she didn't fully understand. Adrian sat across the room, his hands trembling in a way I had never seen. There was no more pretending, no more hiding. The truth hovered between us like a shadow we could no longer escape. When Adrian finally spoke, his voice broke with the weight of it. There is another child. The words didn't just hang in the room, they crushed it. My stomach twisted, heat surging through my chest. I looked at Mara, whose hands shook violently as she held an envelope Adrian handed her. Inside were photos, letters, and legal documents. Proof, evidence, pieces of a life he had kept buried. Her name was Nora. And years ago, during a period of strain in my parents' marriage, Adrian had crossed a line he swore he never meant to cross. Nora had a son, and though the boy wasn't biologically his, Adrian had supported them quietly, secretly, out of guilt, obligation, and something he couldn't entirely explain. I thought I could protect everyone, he whispered. I never wanted to hurt you, Mara. But secrets have weight, and eventually they crush the hands that carry them. Mara sobbed, her grief echoing through the room in a way that made my own chest ache. Sienna clung to her, still too young to understand, but aware enough to feel her world shift beneath her feet. I didn't know where to stand between anger and compassion, between betrayal and heartbreaking clarity. But as I looked at Adrian's face, drained of color and stripped of pride, I sensed there was more. Something deeper, something he hadn't yet said. And when I noticed the fear flickering in his eyes, not guilt, not shame, but fear, I realized the truth we'd learned was only the beginning. He hadn't told us everything. Not yet. And then I saw the second envelope. The one he tried to hide under a folder. The one he prayed we wouldn't notice. My breath stalled, because whatever was inside it terrified him far more than Nora's secret ever had. Dad. What else are you hiding? I whispered. He froze. And the storm outside thundered as if answering for him.